You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/cheapgeek. So it begins again. Welcome again to the CreepGeeks Podcast. This podcast that you're listening to right now is us, the CreepGeeks Podcast. This is episode number 162.
Mysterious drone mystery solved. UFOs in the presidential race.
Yeah. I can see from the look on your face, you don't like the new intro.
No, I do not.
Yes. So, for those of you tuning into the CreepGeeks Podcast and have heard the podcast before, welcome back. And if it's your first time here, hello and welcome. It's good to have you here. Yeah. Why do you keep looking at me like that? Anyway, I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And we are doing the CreepGeeks Podcast. And it was basically pointed out just a couple seconds ago that someone doesn't like the title of this podcast.
Because it's Department of Redundancy Department.
Yes. Mysterious drone mystery solved. I thought it was clever.
I just want to let everyone know I don't write the titles of the podcast. I just read them at the beginning of the show.
That's why they're so good.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. All right. So anyway, if it's your first time tuning in, we're glad you're here. And if you have been listening to the podcast for a while, we're glad to have you back. And before we get started, there's a couple different ways you can contact us. If you have something you'd like to share with the podcast, or maybe an experience or something like that, or something that you'd like to let everybody or us know, we have a toll-free phone number that you can call and leave us a voicemail.
And that phone number is going to be 575-208-4025.
Yeah, and if you'd like to interact with us, whenever you want at your leisure, you can certainly do that. We have a couple different ways you can do that with. Actually, it's pretty easy and fun. You
can email us. That's going to be contact@creepgeeks.com. You can also fill out our Contact Us form on our website. That's going to be CreepGeeks.com.
Yes.
And you can reach out to us on social media. We're on all major platforms. So Facebook, we got a Facebook page as well as a group.
Yes.
Type CreepGeeks, you'll find us.
Yes.
And we're also on Twitter as well as Instagram.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, there's a couple different ways you can get a hold of us. So we do like to share some of the interesting and weird things that we find upon the internets. And we put them in here, and that's why we're a paranormal and weird news podcast. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we like to go out and do investigations and stuff like that and interviews and, kind of do our thing. And we do appreciate the support that people give us with their love and messages of support with things like, hello, I have a story to share. Is this the right place? Yeah, it is. Call us back, right? Call me back. I got something to tell you. Call me back. But yeah, we have that number there, so you can give us a call. And that number was 575-208-4025, Roswell area code, because we thought that was clever. And nobody seems to care. That's okay. We soldier on. Okay, in our last podcast, we actually talked about some of these mysterious drones that are kind of popping up there. And we have a little bit of an update for that. But before we do that, we have a couple different things that we like to do. One of which is our interesting random factoid.
Yes.
And what this actually is an interesting random fact.
Thank you.
Yes. It's a small fact. It's a short fact. So, and the weird thing is that before the podcast started, I silenced my phone. And now it's not. I don't understand. They say, yeah, there we go. Yeah, weird. Silent mode on. Anyway, they say that when you look at phenomenon and different types of phenomenon, it looks back.
When you stare into the void, eventually the void stares back at you.
William Shakespeare said that.
Okay.
Shakespeare.
We're going to let you roll with that.
So,
okay?
All right.
Now, this interesting random factoid we've actually talked about in the past, and that is The Simpsons predicting things with strange accuracy.
Yeah.
Anything from presidential elections to,
there's
Game of Thrones spoilers and stuff like that. But some of their predictions go way back to like before they had their own show, which was over 27 years ago.
Yeah, it used to be on the Tracy Ullman show.
I remember that.
As a little clip.
So this one kind of struck me as odd, considering we're barely 2 weeks into 2020, and all the memes and everybody on the Twitter sphere is talking about World War III. And I thought, I wonder if The Simpsons have predicted that. Well, it turns out they have. On the 16th Simpsons short that originally aired on the Tracy Ullman Show, this is way back November 22nd, 1987, there was a short where Homer wakes up the whole family and says, "It's World War III, bombs are dropping everywhere," and basically does a bomb shelter drill in 18 seconds.
Yes.
And then he tries to repeat the drill, at which point, cleverly, the family eventually tricks him, locks him in a room, and makes him promise not to basically get out or repeat the drills. But it was just kind of weird because it was, specifically bomb shelter, nuclear threat, and they predicted it, which is one of those things that I really hope The Simpsons are wrong on.
Well, just so you know, since I've been paying attention to this sort of thing, I don't think we're going to be anywhere close to World War III right now.
I hope so.
Yeah, because the recent escalation between us and Iraq and Iran, well, Iraq's kind of in the middle of this whole thing, and Iran appears to have sort of ratcheted back.
Yeah.
So there's like a doomsday clock that counts down how close we are to Armageddon. And I don't know how close we are, but I don't think we were any closer than we were 2 weeks ago.
I know. And it's
But,
funny because there's
know.
like entire websites devoted to all the predictions The Simpsons have made that have come true. But then when it comes to Simpsons predictions that have not come true, I've only found a couple of sites, and it's only about 13.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, that's not a lucky number.
That's true. Dun, dun, dun.
So, yeah.
So, yeah, there you go.
And if you'd like to hear about that, check back. I think a year ago we talked about Simpsons predictions. I think it was a year ago.
That's possible.
Yeah, so.
That's possible.
Yeah.
We're like 162 episodes in, so it's
I know.
entirely possible.
You have plenty to listen to.
Yeah. Some of it may be actually good. So, heck yeah. But yeah, it is kind of weird because they've been pretty accurate with a lot of things. And I think the funny thing is that sometimes they're just so far out there, or they think that they're so far out there when they're writing the stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I wonder if they're shocked when they're like, what? We were just making fun, and look what happened now. Or, dude's a time traveler, man. That's one of the theories, too.
Yeah.
I can't think of what the guy's name is because I'm terrible with that sort of
Matt
thing.
Groening.
Yeah, time traveler. Or not. I don't know. Kind of a strange thing. But yeah, it is kind of funny. And the funny thing about this is, really the funny thing about the whole Simpsons, and you can go to the Simpsons.fandom.com wiki that we're talking about. And when you look at the clip, or an image from the clip, since it came from the Tracy Ullman Show, they don't look at all like what they look at now.
Yeah.
They almost look like Great Value Simpsons.
I know.
Dollar
like General.
Yeah. They have like Dollar General, Tom Cruise and Great Value Leonardo DiCaprio, all those memes.
Have you ever seen like the first few episodes of Family Guy? It's the same way.
Yeah.
It's like,
They don't look.
Yeah.
They're not all polished up. It's like they're weird looking. They're like Mandela Effect Simpsons, where people are like, no, that's what they always look like.
Like the original South Park's the same way. And then they got better for a few seasons, and then they realized their fans actually liked the horrible drawing. So, yeah. So
then they had to create a program to recreate the horrible drawing to make it easier for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're interested in random factoid, the Simpsons have been right quite a bit about predictions, and let's hope that they're wrong with this one.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of an update, because our last podcast, we did talk about these drones, these big monster drones, like 4 feet in diameter drones, just whizzing around Colorado.
Flying in packs.
Yeah. These packs of just drones just flying around, doing grid searches, See, that's the thing about the mysterious drone mystery, is it's mysterious. And they don't really know what's going on. And it's like, okay, the sheriff's looking into it, and everybody's like, whoa, what's going on? Let's contact the FAA. And guess what? They don't know what it is. Oh, let's contact the government. And the government doesn't know what it is. And nobody seems to know what's going on with these drones. They're not really doing anything. They're just kind of flying around. But the fact that they're flying around makes it unusual. And sometimes when people get close to them, they turn off their lights. And it's like, oh, you're not allowed to do that. You can't turn out, So it's a mystery, right? And these things are pretty big. These aren't like your standard, bought it off the internet kind of drone you got there whizzing around. These are big.
Yeah.
These are like big old...
What was it, like 4 feet or
yeah,
something?
they're saying about 4 feet diameter, and some of them fly for like hours. And so it's a thing. So people are a little up in arms. These things have been flying around. They've been flying over multiple sites, and they've been flying over what appears to be government military-style property, or ranges, if you will, maybe some territory. So recently, I seen this article that said that it may be solved, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of what they put out here is that it may be the government.
Okay.
Even though the government says it's not the government, people are saying, well, that's what the government would say.
Come on.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, because some of these things are flying around where restricted airspace is. And there's a Federal Aviation Administration map of the region where drones have been spotted, like in Logan, Phillips, Sedgwick, and Yuma counties.
Yeah.
And it's just got all these little red dots where drones are forbidden to fly. And this restricted airspace is like presumably above missile silos. Now, the Air Force has a counter-drone program in a place called Warren, which includes the extensive testing of civilian drones and relies on innovative technology, including the D-drone system developed in Europe that detects and tracks small civilian drones using radio signals that they require, for control.
Yeah.
And it's run by the 90th Security Support Squadron at Warren.
Isn't that funny? Wasn't the 90th Squadron mentioned in that conspiracy?
Yeah, and they were like,
blog?
Do you have any drones flying around? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
So what's going on here, and what this surmises is basically that they're testing stuff, and they're doing exercises, and they don't want to advertise to the public that they're doing these exercises. So when they got asked about it, the military is like, we don't know nothing about it. So this Warren counter-drone program focuses on these small commercial drones that could be, bought for like dirt cheap off of Amazon as a means to sort of counteract these drones, like whether it's taking them down or making them not be able to fly anymore or neutralizing them,
Yeah.
or detecting them. And so they fly these drones against the government drones to see who will win, right? And then after they figure this out, they put, programs in place, and they have like a sort of a mode of operation or a set of instructions to follow if they're, worried about drones.
Okay.
Counter-drone technology, because honestly, you can buy a small drone and fly it wherever you want it to go and do bad stuff with it. I'm not going to say what you could do with these sort of things. So the military needs to have a way to sort of counteract it. So it's an exercise. So you practice doing this sort of thing to be able to protect yourself against these small drones. So if they are doing counter-drone exercises, they probably don't want to put it out there, the government, whether it's the Army, the Air Force, or whatever it is.
Or maybe it's the FAA seeing how well they can bust civilians.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because usually the government and the military in general don't always advertise their exercises. And they also don't really advertise their procedures that they do, not necessarily. So they do what they got to do. And they practice and they train. And they're not apt to give away all their secrets because, if they put out, oh, yeah, we're doing these exercises and somebody decided they want to watch or whatever, you don't want to have a counter-drone program with all of its secrets out there so that a counter-drone program through somebody else can sort of counteract the drones.
Okay.
But these drones, they're making national news now, and they're not really doing anything wrong necessarily. They're out there just flying around. But, enough questions are being asked that it's possible that this is the military and the military is doing a training exercise, and they just don't want to advertise it. And if they're doing like a joint training exercise over different bases and using different branches of the service, like maybe the Air Force and the Army, that sort of thing, maybe this training exercise is something they don't want to have public.
Okay.
So, who knows, right? Because the worry is that some of these smaller drones can be used as like battlefield weapons, like to drop hand grenades and terrible stuff like that. So, countering those drone threats lets them to be ready to adjust these new technologies and handle the situation. So we want the Air Force, we want the Army, we want all these people out there in our service to be able to have a means to protect themselves against these little drones.
Okay.
Including using a new truck-mounted laser. So they're going to go through all this stuff, and they're going to come up with a plan of, procedure, standard operating procedure to protect and do drone countermeasures. And the cool thing is, they're going to use lasers for some of these, like a truck-mounted laser, like a truck with a laser on its head. They can pull in there and zap these freaking drones, these little itty-bitty drones whizzing around with a freaking laser made by Raytheon. So the Air Force has been basically doing counter-drone weapons and research and things like that. And so Raytheon has delivered them a new truck-mounted laser.
Okay.
So what if they're out there just basically blasting drones with truck-mounted lasers, to make sure that all this stuff works so they can use them, and use them safely and effectively to be able to wipe these drones out.
It sounds
You don't want to tell people, hey, man, drones, no problem. We got a truck-mounted laser. Because then everybody's going to want one.
I know.
I mean, I want a truck-mounted laser right now. I want to put one on the albino rhino.
Well, go tweet Elon Musk. Maybe he'll make you
Why
one.
would I want Elon Musk to, well, first I'd have to buy it online, right? And it'd probably be delivered by the Boring Company. And it's like, just go ahead and put down my $100 deposit for a truck-mounted laser from Elon Musk, and maybe 2 to 5 years I'll get it.
Yeah.
Or, maybe at some government auction I can pick me up a Raytheon truck-mounted. I'd probably have to have a truck to power the truck-mounted laser. So the laser will be mounted on the van, right? Because we have a DIY camper van investigation adventure mobile called the albino rhino that we use.
Yeah.
So when we go investigate things, and if we get tired, we can sleep in it. I'd probably have to have another van behind our van to tote the power supply to power this truck-mounted laser. And what I want to know is it one of those super cool lasers where you can actually see the beam or not? It's probably one of those lasers where you really can't see the beam, so you just kind of point it and it makes some noise, and the drone just pops, like in the sky.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not as cool as like anything that uses like lasers, like phasers, like, sci-fi movies and stuff where you can see the blast,
Just
like,
want a rail
like
gun.
green. Yeah,
I want a rail gun.
So maybe they're doing that. These drones right now, they're not really doing anything wrong. It is a little startling to see these drones whizzing around, and people are getting freaked out. So far the theory has circled back to it's the government doing different things.
Yeah, but then...
And, hey, government and local law enforcement, they have their own drones.
Yeah.
So they got these big old commercial, like, versions and stuff. And maybe they're just out there just practicing with these drones to get better proficiency with them. I mean, it could be that they're actually just training to better operate their own drones that they have. Because if they have they should have drones that have lasers on them. Mm-hmm. We already know there's a company that makes that, fire flamethrower drone.
Yeah.
Like overseas somewhere where there's things that get hung up on the power lines. So they send this little drone up. It's got a flamethrower and it burns the garbage off the power lines.
Which would be like really smart for like plains in southwest states like New Mexico, because the whole tumbleweeds blowing up there and getting caught.
Yeah.
But
I think the fear is that in a really dry place like New Mexico, which kind of has the same sort of ecosystem and weather conditions and basically just overall feeling as like Australia does, that maybe, burning some tumbleweeds to death might cause more problems, maybe create some little brush fire action.
Well, I'm looking at this article from Mysterious Universe, how on January 6th, local law enforcement agencies, even though we have, everything as far as a possible theory that they're testing anti-drone technology, the local law enforcement agencies from eastern Colorado held a meeting with several federal agencies and announced the formation of the task force to try and identify the owner of the drones.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say next, is that the local law enforcement's like, okay, well,
so
you guys are saying there's nothing that you're doing, so we'll just go ahead and get us a task force and we can fly around.
This task force will probably need a bigger room for the next meeting because it will now include local sheriffs from numerous counties, the FBI, the FAA, the Department of Defense, Colorado Information Analysis Center, the Colorado Department of Homeland Security, Colorado Governor Jared Polis, and a few kitchen sinks, which means more alphabet organizations.
You know what that means? It's like, okay, well, they're not really doing anything. They're weird to see out there, a little startling, so let's go ahead and completely overreact to the entire thing.
Yeah.
And get as many people as involved as possible.
Or let's see how many guilty parties we can get in one room and hold a straight face.
Well, somebody's going to pick up the phone and go, you need to stop doing this because our exercise is done.
And they're claiming the task force is going to look, since they can't seem to figure out the origin of the drones, what they're going to do is focus on the ground and look for a command vehicle.
Yeah, which is smart.
Yeah, which is kind of, okay, so this is where it pops in. A sinister-looking plain box trailer or van with antennae.
Yeah.
Which, in Colorado, is nearly everybody.
So let's put this in perspective. We have a DIY camper van we call the Albino Rhino. It's a 2018 Ram ProMaster. It's a big white van.
Big plain white van.
Yep, and it has roof rack on the top, like the bar. So if we were parked out there about where these drones were flying around, because some of this land is basically BLM land.
Public land.
Like public land. And we're out there camping. Now, we would run the risk of having a bunch of, like,
alphabet letter organizations rating us.
Swooping in up us on, like, what are you guys doing? Are you flying drones? And we're like, no, man, we're just trying to watch Netflix. Right?
Can you imagine?
So there's in Colorado and places like that, in Colorado and Arizona and Utah and all these places where the weather is relatively stable and kind of nice, where it's not too entirely cold this year or during this time of year, they're just going to be swooping in on a bunch of filthy van dwellers.
Hey.
Rattling their cages, come beating their door in at 2 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing? Are you flying drones? God. I can see it going bad. Somebody's going to be parked. Somebody's going to pull in late at night because they're tired and think they're on public land where they can stay for 14 days with no worries.
Because you can.
And they're just going to be surrounded by cops beating them down. And then
ATF and FBI and SWAT.
It's going to be on like Facebook and Instagram, because that's one of the questions that people ask. Like if they want to do this van dwelling thing or van life thing, and they're like, have you ever been, have you ever had a knock at the window? Which is what police do. They'll come up and knock on the window.
Rangers too.
And and Rangers. And somebody's going to go, man, let me tell you what happened to me. I pulled into this safe land or, this public land, and there was like 42 cops and helicopters and stuff whizzing around.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine the YouTube video?
The
reaction video.
Because I would start recording. If I seen all this stuff, like, I'm going to record this right now, put this on the internet. And then they're going to knock on the door and go, come out of there. I'm going to go, am I being detained? Am I free to go?
What's in that 5-gallon bucket?
Yeah.
Sir, you don't want to know.
Oh, that would be great. What do you have in there? Well, that's a porta potty. I'll be the judge of that. And it's like, go ahead. It's like, go ahead, man. But really what would happen is that they would probably tear apart your domicile, right, your van, rip it all to shreds looking for stuff, just if they thought for a second that your Wi-Fi antenna on top of your van was going to be controlling these drones. Oh, gosh. And then go, yep, there's nothing here, and then leave you to put everything back together.
How many van dwellers use the Wi-Fi?
Everybody
yeah,
does.
all of them.
We have one that's just set to be installed on top of our van to give us 4G, LTE, and Wi-Fi wherever we go, and we can pick up a signal. It's an antenna, because you're inside a big giant white box, and a big metal box. You need an antenna to be able to reach the signal and get it to go inside, because we have that and a router and all that stuff. So they would just tear it apart, I'm sure. And what's going to make it's even more aggravating is that some places have rules where if that is your house, in other words, like an RV is treated like your home, they need a warrant. Straight up.
Even if you're like in a national park or wilderness?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. As far as I understand. I may be wrong, but I don't think so.
Oh, wait, isn't that where
if I'm wrong, let me know.
Yeah, like the game wardens. Game wardens can bypass the warrant, can't they?
Well, they can, sure. Yeah, but at the same time, an RV is not necessarily considered a vehicle when you're like kind of camping and all that sort of thing. So,
yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be a thing. Somebody is going to experience van life. They're going to have their little Instagram channel. Look, we just finished our van. This is going to be our very first trip.
Let's sit down to a lovely vegan dinner in the wilderness.
Let's do all of this stuff. And then the door is going to get kicked in by some angry, zealous police officers or federal agents.
Are you operating drones?
And the thing is that if it's government, it's entirely possible that the control wouldn't be in a van anywhere close to where they are. They can control like the super expensive drones. They use satellites and all sorts of government stuff. What they're saying is the mysterious drone flights and the mystery drones, that the solution to the obvious question of who it is more than likely the military. And that the military, right, has probably decided that, according to what we're doing and, OPSEC or operational security, that they're not going to admit to anything. And more than likely what's going to happen is that once it becomes obvious that, this task force gets into place and starts looking, that these flights will stop. Or the people that are doing it that don't have a clue or whatever are just going to keep on doing it. Right. And so it's going to turn into a thing. But, are they nefarious? Do they have evil intent? More than likely, no. They're just drones. So it's probably counter-drone exercises being conducted. Maybe sensitive exercises being conducted on these military bases and around Colorado Springs and some of the Air Force bases like Shriver Air Force Base and Peterson Air Force Base. And they'll eventually stop. Probably about the time they mobilize their task force and get all ready and stuff. Because, they got a plane they're going to fly around in. They got all sorts of stuff they're getting ready. They're fixing to do it.
What bothers
They'll
me?
probably quit by then.
That plane, that small, high-tech plane.
Yeah.
What does the Southwest just love to eat up? Small high-tech planes.
Yep. So there you go. If you're a Colorado resident and you fear government cover-up, not everything is a cover-up.
Yeah.
Sometimes the military conducts exercises, and they don't want people that will spy to have a clue how they conduct their exercises. And maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
So, or maybe they're testing their truck-mounted laser system.
I would love to see that.
What, truck-mounted laser system?
Yeah.
Me too. I think it'd be neat, especially if it makes like any kind of cool laser noises, like sci-fi type stuff. That'd be really cool. Because it probably won't make really any noise at all. But you have to add noise for effect. So like pew 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 pew.
But I just want to imagine instead of like the laser set up like a rail gun.
Yeah, like,
and it's got so much force it kicks the truck back a little bit.
Yeah, but that won't happen.
I know.
It just basically be like bzzz.
Yeah.
The Colorado Division of Fire Prevention and Control is flying a state-owned high-tech multi-mission aircraft, the Pilatus, however you say that, PC-12 airplane.
Yeah.
Trying to fly around when they see these drones. So we're not really going to worry about World War III, and we're certainly not going to worry about a bunch of drones flying around. But I would like to see the truck-mounted laser system. Okay. So I think that'd be kind of cool. So there you go. There's your news update about the drones. The mystery drone mystery has probably been solved. It's probably the government conducting exercises. And there you go. Mm-hmm. In other words, it really hasn't been solved at all. It's just an idea that the government is like, okay, the government's lying. They're just not telling us we're doing it. So but here's the thing. What if they really are, like, not doing it? Like, no, man, we're not doing it. And they're like, yeah, that's what we thought you would say. You want us to think that you're not doing anything.
I just want to see what the results of the task force are.
Yeah, we'll probably know. We'll probably never know. If it just goes away,
yeah,
and that's the end of it, then it's probably going to be government.
Yeah, it's probably like a government experiment or drill. Yeah.
Or an exercise. They call them exercises.
Okay.
Counter-drone exercises. The funny thing is if they're like, okay, so we've been trying to track these drones, and we just seen a big green giant laser beam go whizzing through the area. And it's like, holy, did you see that thing? And it's like, wah, they're firing off a truck-mounted laser. Shooting cactuses. Cacti.
If it were like a anti-drone op or exercise where they test out the capability by using these various drones, most of these exercises are filmed or recorded in some manner.
Sure.
So that you can observe the action that takes place and learn from the mistake, stuff like that.
Usually they're recorded on iPhones.
No, that's civilians.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But what I'd like to see is, considering how top secret this is and the areas that these things are flying, if there's any UFO evidence, that'd be kind of cool. Like in the background of like this really super high-tech top secret drill, there's just this UFO just going by in the night sky.
Yeah, they fire off a truck-mounted laser and it scares the UFO. Oh, and they go whizzing off. Like, whoa, what was that? Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of weird. You would think it's with as much cell phones out there, and there was an article that basically talked about cell phones, how UFO sightings are on the rise because people are using cell phones. So speaking of UFOs, it's become apparent that UFOs are the coolest thing out there, right? 2019 was super cool with the whole, Tic Tac UFO type video, and the government saying that, hey, we don't know what that was either. Remember?
Yeah.
And you had let's not call them UFOs, let's call them unidentified flying phenomenon.
Unidentified aerial phenomenon.
That's what it was, unidentified aerial phenomenon.
UAPs.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, hey, yeah. They also created a way to, document these sort of things and, ask for, if you're a senator or congressman or something like that, be able to ask for information on them, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's becoming a thing. And this question does get asked to presidential candidates when they are going to be candidates for president.
Starting like a decade ago almost.
Longer than that.
Yeah.
So, like, I know Jimmy Carter was asked about it. Reagan was asked about it. Everybody's been asked about it. Every presidential candidate, I think, at least as far as I know, since Carter, gets asked about UFOs and all this sort of thing. Even the current president, President Trump, was asked about it. And so it appears that this has become something that gets sort of
now it's being
front and center in the presidential race. Not necessarily front and center, but for...
Now at the candidate level, it's affecting them. Not just, after they become president, but at the candidate level.
Yeah, because somebody's going to ask them, what would you do about UFOs?
Yeah, and...
These are some tough questions. Right? So they get trained to answer questions because they have people that are grooming them to answer correctly, right? Because we want the best candidate, and they don't want them to get up there and act a fool or continually tweet or keep talking, right? They want to have some sort of control. And some of these tough questions about recent UFO sightings by military personnel have been started to be asked to our presidential candidates. Yeah. And there's one from South Bend, Indiana, Mayor Pete Buttigieg. I really don't know how to say his name.
Buttigieg.
We don't know.
According to Wikipedia, it's Booty. J-I-J.
Buttigieg.
Buttigieg.
Okay, I don't know how to say this guy's name. Is Mayor Pete Buttigieg or Geege, whatever.
Buttigieg. Right? Yeah, that sounds right.
He had his little turn in a hot seat. So evidently, this reporter named Damon Steers asked him, about, hey, would you be willing to open the X-Files to the public? Right? Mm-hmm. And you know what he said?
What?
Well, strange things happen out there. Right? So in response to his UFO question about the USS Nimitz UFO incident in 2004, which is, the thing that sort of the TikTok video and Through the Stars Academy, this whole thing sort of kicked off in 2019, right?
Yeah.
He's like, here's what he said. It's very unlikely that we're alone in the universe, which is a safe answer to say. And as a curious species, we should always be looking to what's going on around us. Mm-hmm. So he took the safe approach, saying, hey, we're not the only ones here. He doesn't think we'll see concrete evidence on Earth about aliens or UFOs or anything like that. However, it doesn't mean that we should stop watching the skies.
I do like
that. He's like, I'm curious if I see some stuff,
Well, he did defend the right and responsibility of the military personnel to be able to report strange incidents like that without fear and ridicule or reprisal. And he also told a personal story, like an anecdote about his experience seeing something like a strange-looking blimp, and then when he served in Afghanistan, seeing something similar.
Right.
And I'm like, at least that's more of a good filler.
It's a nice political answer.
Yeah, but
so
I like it.
But that's kind of what they all say, And there was a couple presidents who were like, "If I'm elected, I'm going to release any information I can," or
it's a part of Bernie's platform now. Yeah.
You know what? And I got to be honest, I'm not a fan of Bernie Sanders. We don't talk politics, on this podcast. But I don't know. He's just something. He creeps me out a little bit. Maybe it's just
So Bernie is using the same.
Well, they're all saying the same thing.
Position. He pledges to release. He outwardly said it. He pledges to release any information about disclosing the government and its interactions with UFOs.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay.
I think at one time Eisenhower was going to release some stuff because he was supposed to have been in on a whole lot of UFO type stuff. But here's what's going to happen. Here's what I think actually does happen. If there is such a thing as UFOs and all sorts of crazy stuff, it kind of goes one of two ways. If they think that the president is going to want to push the issue and release or have information released, right? Mm-hmm. I think somebody shows up and sits them down and gives them a brief and says, okay, here's what UFOs are. They're government craft, military craft, or whatever, or they're aliens or whatever. And basically says, if you go and open your mouth and let all the information that we've been trying to keep secret for the good of humankind or whatever out, it's going to cause these problems. Right? Whether it's something crazy like we have arrangements and agreements with like the Pleiadians and the reptilians and we got all these And if you go running in your mouth, you're going to wreck these things and they're going to destroy us.
We're under the control of the Greys.
Yeah. So maybe what happens is they get this little brief and it scares them so bad. They're like, no, I'm not releasing anything. This didn't happen. And if people call me out on it, I'm just going to be like, okay, whatever. Mm-hmm. In other words, yeah, whatever. I'll take the hit from the people.
Or what if enough people force the issue that it becomes like a need to know and the president gets some trickled down information?
I think by the time the president gets a full briefing on how scary things really are, UFOs and aliens and disclosure is like just made it to the very bottom of the list.
But we could say the same almost with like the JFK assassination.
Well, in the grand scheme, yeah. I mean, what if the JFK assassination was caused by aliens?
Well, I mean, okay, so what was it? 110 files were supposed to be released, and in the end...
Oh, it was way more than that, but yeah.
In the end, during the first part of Trump's administration, only, 75 got released or something?
I think
Yeah.
If you're listening right now and you're all into this stuff, we don't have any idea what we're talking about.
It was like 3/4 of it got...
No, there was like thousands of documents or whatever, and some of it got released, but most of it was redacted. It was already blacked out, and you couldn't see it. And so, true to his word, he said he was going to get some things released in Freedom of Information Act, and he did, but there's nothing for you to look at.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, what happens if he goes and he gets briefed, the president gets briefed by these top secret people, and there's nothing. And they're like, hey, all they're seeing, all these people are seeing is our government craft. And we're keeping all of our national security secrets secret. And what they're seeing is our top secret craft, like, our spy planes and all of our top secret technology. That's all they're seeing. No UFOs, no nothing.
Or we're using it as a way to basically distract the media and distract society from something else.
Yeah, like our top secret craft.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want the Chinese and the Russians to know exactly what you have?
No.
Especially the Chinese, because they'll just basically take it and copy it. And the Russians and their Navy and their submarine program got so much better all of a sudden because they had plenty of spies that took a lot of our, tried and proven technology, our stealth technology, our sound deadening technology, and they just basically implemented it. Mm-hmm. So secrets, man.
Or, I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if basically the whole UFO phenomenon and the position that the government has taken for a while now, the whole not acknowledge or dispute, but with a reticence, is a way to basically make us think, oh, they know what's going on, when in truth they don't know what's going on.
Well, that's just as scary.
I know, and I'm starting to think that.
They can't win.
I know.
The government's like, no, there is nothing. That's just exactly what you think we want you to say. You know what I mean?
Like the whole, we're just as clueless as you.
That's terrible.
Is probably just as terrifying as, somebody like bum rushing a presidential speech and saying, "This is what we know,"
Yeah.
I mean,
as much as people like or dislike the military, I would always want them to know what's going on, and I would always like for the U.S. to be strong enough to, take care of business over any other country on the planet. Maybe that makes me I don't know, not a popular guy, but whatever, man. I used to be in the military. I would like to think that if we ever had to take care of business, that we could certainly do it.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think that we have the technology to do it, and that we're not out there just willy-nilly doing stuff. But, it might be wrong. Might be naive. Might not. I mean, I'm sure there's some conspiracy people out there that are like, oh, man, if you only knew.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, do you know? I mean, that's the thing about these conspiracies. You can make them work, and that's part of it. And when it gets so far out there, you're like, that can't be right. Like, no. Because you can make a conspiracy fit most anything.
And see, that's a problem with the phenomenon, because like with the UFO phenomenon, you can make certain facts fit in such a way that either you're so far down a rabbit hole that it's your version of reality as you interpret it.
Yeah.
And then from the outside or from the mainstream, people are just like, okay, sure, you know, to the point where, okay, sure, translates into memes, into Storm Area 51, into just this very generic embracement of the phenomenon.
Yeah.
When in truth, it has some pretty heavy consequences.
Sure.
And now these consequences are translating into presidential elections.
Well, yeah, it makes sense because they're going to get asked. I mean, there's a bunch of candidates that have been asked about it. Right?
Yeah.
Like Republican William Weld, who's running for president.
Yeah.
Right. And then you've got like Michael Bennett of Colorado and Eric Swalwell and Devin Patrick, all these people, and Marianne Will. I don't know any of these people, to be honest with you, but they've all been asked. And some of them are kind of doing the whole politically correct answer, and some of them are like, you know, one of my favorites is this guy, Michael Bennett, who's like,
oh, wow.
He's basically, you know, an intelligence committee member. And he hasn't said much, and he won't be saying much about it because he won't make any promises.
Yeah.
He says, you know, he can't confirm that the military is seeing unidentified and unexplained stuff, which is okay. That's obvious.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm focused on things like getting rid of a lawless president, right? And then I'll work out. The rest of the otherworldly creatures.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
And he did preface his whole answer. Let me say it this way. I have to be extremely careful because I'm on the intelligence committee.
Yeah.
So nothing that I'm saying is anything to do with anything I've learned on the intelligence committee.
Yeah. So he's like, you know, I can't really say a whole lot because I'm on the intelligence committee, but I'm not saying there is, I'm not saying there isn't, I'm just not going to say anything.
Which that answer though, that preface.
So some people were like, so he does know.
Yeah, that preface is just as bad as our podcast title. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Mysterious drone. Yeah, mystery solved, right? I don't know. And I kind of think that if you're on like an intelligence committee or something like that, and I wouldn't think that they would be privy to know everything there is to know. I don't think just because you get elected that you're privy to know all the nation's secrets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think that's how that works, but I don't really know. You know, and I don't pretend to know. I just know that, you know, these people have been asked, and so far they're not really sort of doing it for me.
That quote was from Eric Swalwell, the whole focusing on getting rid of things like a lawless president.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Eric Swalwell, who basically...
Yeah. Well, yeah, Bennett was the intelligence committee member, and he won't be saying a whole lot of stuff. And Swalwell was one.
Yeah. Punting it with a comment on the current president, which will basically, not win him many votes with anybody. Yeah.
People are not going to be happy about that.
Yeah.
And then you've got the former Massachusetts governor, Deval Patrick, right? And he's talking about pilots. And he said, you know, the pilots that are out there don't generally report UFOs out of fears of losing their job, right? And if he's really had those conversations with pilots, because he kind of had to win them over by saying he at least shared in or has a respected sort of, at least respects their beliefs.
Oh, wow.
You know, because he was on the board of United Airlines.
Oh.
So he's not really saying anything either. He's just saying, here's what he said. I've met other pilots, commercial pilots, who've said there are things that they've seen in the night sky, mostly in the night sky. I used to be on the board of an airline. I talked to pilots who told me about that sort of thing. And then what he said is that he knows that pilots generally don't report UFOs out of fear of losing their jobs.
Yeah.
So, and then this other quote, I don't know why the United States is so secretive about that issue compared to other countries. I love that stuff. To me, personally, with the idea of, I would like to think that we, as in our government and maybe parts of the world, are ready in case something crazy is going to happen, right, with UFOs and stuff. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to keep some secrets. You know, it's like when you're playing cards. We keep secrets when we're playing cards. You know, I don't want you to know my hand. But to say, I don't understand why we keep it all secret. What? It's like, have you never not seen a spy movie?
Yeah. Well, that's because it's
Michelle Williamson.
She is a self-help guru and friend of Oprah and a spiritual advisor.
Yeah, I'll throw open the X-Files and tear down the fence around Area 51.
Yes.
I'm going to go on record and say that's about the most asinine thing I've heard. Let's just give away all of our secrets. And it's like, hey, you want to know how to make a bomb? I'll just show you. You know,
now you've probably seen her quotes on Pinterest and Pinstagram. Or, yeah.
On
Pinstagram.
We should start a new one called Pinstagram.
And interest.
Yeah, I don't know. You can't, okay, other countries keep secrets. All the countries keep secrets because, again, you don't want to let everybody know what your actual defense or offensive capability really is. Right? That's part of that whole sort of, nuclear detente, right? It's like, you don't know exactly what I got. I don't know exactly what you... the whole thing is sort of a checks and balances thing. It's not the best thing out there, but, it's kind of like, I don't know.
Wow. Okay, I don't know about her. William Weld, which is the Republican candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got some...
much more open and expansive in his answers.
Yeah. And here's the thing. He's run for president before.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say things like, I do think there's extraterrestrial life out there, and it's probably more intelligent than us, right? He's not really a big fan necessarily of flying saucers, and he would never say never. If he takes this too far, because he makes a reference, right, to the
Bridie Murphy case.
Yeah, Bridie Murphy case.
Which...
See, here's the fine line you have to walk, because we like this stuff. We like to talk about it.
Yeah.
We talk to people all the time that are wide open about this kind of thing. But if you're trying to be the president, there is a large bulk of the country that doesn't want to think that you believe in UFOs and aliens and probably Bigfoot and witchcraft and all this other stuff, because that's just not what they want.
And he is pretty wide open. That's a really rare case,
See, if he gets pegged as being a whack job, he'll have no chance, no credibility.
Like that one guy back in 2016, or was it 2008? No, I think it was the first Obama. There was that one candidate from the South who talked about being abducted. Oh man, I don't remember that guy. Yeah. He was not memorable.
I thought it was a female. I don't know. But
that was the female lady politician from Florida. She was running for governor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there was a male back in I think the Obama era administration, and he was totally believe in him. We saw basically he saw a UFO land or something.
Yeah, so I'm sure his political groomers for this whole thing is really, they probably just quit. Okay, we quit. Kind of like Prince Andrew.
I don't think he made it to the primaries.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And see, that's part of it. These candidates, if they are...
All they had to say was, hey, I think that, for us to think that we're the most intelligent thing out there is probably a little much, but I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
Or are you going to disclose? I don't know. I can't say I would disclose. I can't say I wouldn't disclose. It really depends.
It depends on what I'm disclosing.
Yeah. I don't know. There's no good answer,
Yeah.
So the good answer is to deflect it, give an example of something else, right? Mm-hmm. Or not answer it. Or just, hope you don't get asked that hard question. Because they've probably been super trained up on, what do you think about the deficit and budgets and healthcare and all this other stuff? And somebody's just going to show up and go, UFOs, believe it or not? Bigfoot, believe it or not? But you never know. It's entirely possible that maybe there's a whole lot of stuff that, we don't know, of course, and everybody does know, in the government somehow. Like Teddy Roosevelt possibly setting aside all these national parks because that's where the Bigfoots are, and it's easier just to make sure that none of these national parks get developed so you don't have any run-ins with giant Bigfoots.
Which?
Because they're natural, because they're, one of the lost tribes of man, if you will. Australopithecus or gigantus monkeys, whatever all that stuff's called. You never know. What if that's the case? What if we got a whole sci-fi show like Warehouse 13 thing going on with all these haunted objects and stuff, and Raiders of the Lost Ark?
My argument against that national parks thing, though, is the fact that the previous administration, the Obama administration, tried to extend the borders of national parks and monuments and wilderness areas. And now the current administration is selling off a lot of that territory.
Yes.
And that battle between political parties or positions between conservationists and not necessarily non-conservationists, but people who realize the responsibility of taking care of that much wilderness it kind of throws a wrench in that argument. I mean, if you're selling off those border territories.
Well, yeah, but see, that's just it, though. If you're just selling off a border territory that's not the area where they live.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then you have all those sightings, especially in the Southwest, where it seems to be on those edge territories, like Carson National Forest and Jemez.
Okay.
A lot of the sightings are right on the edges, which are
sure,
now for
but
sale.
if you sell them and then you develop those areas, what happens? They move. They go somewhere else.
Or they get trapped.
I think your argument is not working.
No, or they get trapped for a while, which would be an increase in sightings.
I don't think they would get trapped for a while. These things, if they do exist, right? Can't say for sure. There's so much of the national parks that we don't even go into, that nobody goes into.
But it's such an expanse of land, and for a predator or for an omnivore of that size, its roaming territory has to be huge. I mean, the Mexican grave wolf, its territory is like, 1,000 miles almost? Mountain lions, it's 200 miles?
Its territory doesn't have to be huge.
I don't know.
I mean, you're talking about if it's something like a human, the territory doesn't have to be huge, especially if they know where food is. All they got to do is snatch a cow every once in a while.
Which happens in the Southwest on those border territories.
I mean,
like Ojito Wilderness.
Yeah, but see, there's so much land that, we're never going to develop all of it, and because we can't even get to not even half of it, we can't even get to it.
Okay. So if we were to
if you basically say this is government land, can't develop it, right? Mm-hmm. There's so much of it, and there's so much of it that you can't even really get to. I don't think that's a worry. It's not. Look it up. There's a ton of land.
The only thing I find that would go, like, basically negate my argument is the fact that I just looked up lowland gorillas and their territory range. It's only 16 square miles.
See?
So that's not bad. Yeah. I mean, you could easily hide that just in BLM land, Bureau of Land Management land. Yes. I mean, Ojito's what? Like, over...
No, I don't know. It's not very big. It's like 23 square miles or something like that. It's not large.
Yeah.
Because it turns into something else.
Well, one end, it's like 23 wide by like 30 long. Yeah.
Maybe at the most.
Yeah. So.
I mean, and if you have enough if you have enough resources.
Food sources, yeah.
Just in general, whether it's like, building shelter or, food and water, you don't necessarily have to travel too much. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
And if you do travel and you're trying to maintain secrecy because you're a Bigfoot and you don't want to be caught and you don't want, you know how to travel without being caught. Especially if you got a family group.
Yeah, and hopefully like modern animals.
I mean, look at the modern gorilla, right? Yeah. Like the mountain gorillas, especially, they were considered to be just like Bigfoot not that long ago because, like, no, they'd never been seen or whatever. And then finally, they get seen. And I was like, oh, everybody sees them, right? There have been stories about gorillas for a long time. People are like, oh, yeah. They just thought they were like a myth. I'm like, nope. They just did their own thing and they shied away from all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. But more importantly, what if in the national parks, some of the national parks, there's like portals and interdimensional gateways and all that crazy stuff, and they really just want to make sure that none of that gets developed.
You mean like that podcast Tanis was talking about? Yeah, that's a theory.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's a theory that's been around long before podcasts have been
I know.
around, so,
but that
I just think it's funny in a lot of ways that we talk about podcasts like, oh yeah. It's like, I mean, the theory has to come from somewhere.
Yeah. But I don't know. I the whole portals and territory thing.
Hey, never know.
Portals are strange areas.
Well, I mean, who knows what's going to happen because the magnetic poles have shifted, so we don't know if that's going to have any major effects or anything. Who knows? Maybe it'll make our internet better.
Maybe it'll make UFOs appear.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe they can be seen now.
Hey.
So maybe all these things that exist just outside our realm of reality, maybe in a parallel universe or dimension or something like that. Maybe be able to see them now. Yeah. Well, I think we just about ran out of stuff to talk about for this particular episode of the podcast. Let's talk about some of our upcoming events.
Oh, okay.
That's where you go. This is all you.
Oh, we are actually trying to fill the 2020 calendar with more events this year. We have a few that we're trying to lock down right now. The one we do have locked down is Mysteries and Monsters at the Canton Place Theater. That's going to be March 21st in Wadsworth, Ohio. Yeah. And that is the Small Town Monsters event that will include basically a special screening about Ohio's own Minerva Monster, along with special guest speakers and films by Small Town Monsters, culminating with the world premiere of On the Trail of UFOs. Yes. Super excited for that.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of cool.
Yeah. Now, if you have recommendations as far as events we should check out this year or think we'd make a great vendor or guest, send us an email, reach out to us on social media, contact at CreepGeeks.com. Alternately, you can always give us a call. That phone number is going to be 575-208-4025.
Yeah.
Be sure to like and follow us on Facebook. That's going to be CreepGeeks Podcast. And if you'd like, join our group, CreepGeeks Facebook group.
Yes. Mm-hmm. We like to share funny stuff, so it's a safe place.
It's also
to
a place where we get some of our show topic ideas.
Yeah. Not always, though. We usually have a pretty good handle on what we kind of want to discuss in a conversational type setting. But, hey.
Everything we've talked about will be in the show notes for this podcast episode, including ways to reach us and find us on social media.
Yes. Cool.
Yeah.
That's really about it for this particular episode of the CreepGeeks Podcast, episode number 162, Mysterious Drone Mystery Solved, UFOs in the Presidential Race, and our opinions about stuff.
Yeah.
And see, we like to take a high-level overview on most everything, because what that does for us is it allows us to maintain the joy and our curiosity without getting drugged down that rabbit hole, because when you stare at the phenomena, it stares back, right? How does that go? If you stare to the void eventually looks back at you. That's a quote from William Shakespeare. You can hear
I am going to Google this. No, it's not even Shakespeare. I am going to slap you.
I wasn't saying Shakespeare. I was saying Shakespeare.
Okay.
Kind of like Zoidberg from...
If you gaze long enough into the abyss will gaze back into you. And that's by Nietzsche.
Who?
Nietzsche?
I don't know who that is. All right.
Nietzsche.
Yeah. Was he a communist?
We're going to take a moment to end the podcast so you can get on Wikipedia and learn.
I don't have time for that.
Maybe get you a thesaurus.
I'm not a big... Well, I don't know. I never really read little Nietzsche, so, it's all good.
No.
So, I've been thinking of Futurama. So, yeah. Anyway, that's about all we got. So I'm just kind of messing around. It's part of my job here at the CreepGeeks Podcast. This is co-host Omi.
50% paranormal, the other 50% dad jokes.
Yeah. It's to, keep things riled up. So, anyway. Okay, so I do appreciate you listening to the podcast, and we do, because this year has turned out pretty good so far. We've all made it about 9 or 10 days into the year, so hopefully your year is going good for you so far. And if it's not, don't worry, you have lots of time.
Yeah.
So it's all good. Anyway, I think that's about it for us.
All right.
So see you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Audible is audio entertainment that entertains, educates, and inspires. For you, the listeners of the CreepGeeks Podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a 30-day free trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/CheapGeek. Again, that's audibletrial.com/CheapGeek for your free audiobook. Enjoy this with your free trial. 30 days of membership free, plus 2 free audiobooks that are yours forever. 1 credit a month after trial, good for any book regardless of price. Exclusive member savings. Get 30% off additional audiobooks. Easy exchanges. Don't love a book? Swap it for free. Anytime, seriously. Again, that's audibletrial.com/CheapGeek for your free audiobook today.